Something shifted in Cleveland, and everyone felt it the moment the game ended. It wasn't just a win. It wasn't just a rookie quarterback playing above expectations. It was something Browns fans haven't experienced in what feels like forever. Hope that didn't feel forced. Not the kind where you talk yourself into believing the team might turn things around, but the kind that hits you in the chest the second you realize, wait, this could have been happening all season. Because on Sunday, the Browns didn't stumble their way into a victory. They didn't scrape by with field goals or pray their defense would bail them out again. They took control. They punched first. They set the tone. And the moment Cleveland got a real lead, an honest, comfortable lead, you could see the entire stadium wake up like someone flipped the switch nobody knew existed. And the spark behind all of it? A rookie who wasn't even supposed to be the story this year. Shedeur Sanders walked onto that field for his first NFL start and played like someone who wasn't auditioning, but someone who'd been waiting for a chance, waiting for a coach willing to take the risk, waiting for a fan base desperate for something, anything worth believing in again. And the craziest part? The most frustrating part? The part that has fans, analysts, and even former players shaking their heads? This moment could have happened months ago. But before we get into what this win really exposed, before we talk about the anger building inside Cleveland, we need to talk about exactly what happened on Sunday and why it changed everything. Before Sunday, Browns fans had gotten used to a familiar pattern. Ugly wins, painful losses, and endless quarters where the defense had to drag the offense like a broken-down car, barely making it up the hill. But this game didn't follow that script. Instead, it felt like Cleveland stepped into an alternate reality where everything they'd been begging for finally lined up. And it happened fast. From the opening drives, you could feel something different. The offense wasn't stumbling around, praying for a miracle third-down conversion. They were actually moving. Clean pockets, confident throws, receivers fighting for extra yards like the season depended on it. Every snap felt like the team had finally remembered football is supposed to go forward, not sideways. By halftime, the scoreboard wasn't lying. Cleveland had a real lead. Not a field goal lead, not a hope the defense doesn't get tired lead. A genuine two-possession cushion that made the entire stadium take a second look. Like, wait, are we actually doing this? A 14-3 advantage that felt surreal because it wasn't luck, it wasn't fluky, it was earned. But the real shift wasn't just on the scoreboard, it was in the atmosphere. You could hear it in the crowd buzz, see it in the sideline excitement, feel it in the way players carried themselves. The offense wasn't playing scared. They weren't making safe little checkdowns or trying to nurse a drive to midfield. They were aggressive. They were confident. They finally looked like a group that believed they could score more than once in a single afternoon. And that confidence bled into the defense. Suddenly, they weren't just defending a lead. They were hunting. Every snap turned into a chance to bury the game deeper, and you could see the defensive line pinning their ears back, ready to unleash everything they'd been holding inside all season. This wasn't just a good half of football. It was a glimpse of what the Browns could have been weeks ago, if someone had simply unlocked the right door. The moment Cleveland walked into the second half with a real lead, it was like releasing a caged animal that had been pacing back and forth for months. This defense, one of the most gifted, explosive, high-motor units in the league, finally got the one thing they'd been begging for: room to breathe. And when the scoreboard gave them that freedom, they didn't just respond, they detonated. For weeks, Browns defenders had been carrying the team like a heavyweight fighter forced to go all 12 rounds alone. They'd kept games close, they'd bailed out bad drives, they'd cleaned up every offensive mess imaginable. But when your offense consistently hands you 3-and-outs, bad field position, and a scoreboard that never moves, best. Even great defenses get worn down. Not this time. This time, they smelled blood. Every snap looked like the Raiders' offensive line forgot how football works. Pass rushers weren't just beating blocks, they were teleporting into the backfield. Linemen weren't just shedding protection, they were ripping through it like wet paper. And the collective energy? That was the part you couldn't script. The defense wasn't just playing well, they were playing free. Free to blitz, free to gamble, free to chase down the quarterback with zero fear that one mistake would flip the entire game. 10 sacks. 10. A number you usually only see in video games when someone hands the controller to their little brother. And the crazy part? It didn't feel like an accident. It felt inevitable. The moment the Browns got that early cushion, you could see it on the players' faces. Myles Garrett wasn't pacing with frustration. He was stalking. Linebackers weren't bracing for long drives. They were reading the offense like a cold, open book. Even the secondary started playing tighter, knowing the quarterback couldn't afford to hold the ball for more than a heartbeat. This is what a championship-caliber defense looks like when it stops babysitting the offense and finally gets to attack. And the question everyone kept asking after this performance was simple. Where did this version of the Browns' defense come from? And why did it take so long to appear? The moment Shedeur Sanders stepped onto the field, the energy shifted in a way Cleveland hasn't felt in years. Not the fake kind of excitement fans forced themselves to feel in Week 1. Not the preseason, maybe this works out optimism. This was something else. Real, raw belief sparked by a rookie who didn't look the slightest bit overwhelmed by the moment. From his first snap, you could tell he wasn't out there to blend in. He was out there to take control. What stood out wasn't one single throw or highlight. It was the calm, the confidence, the body language that said, "Relax, I've got this." Every time the pocket tightened, he stayed tall. Every time a linebacker flashed through a gap, he didn't flinch. And when he finally uncorked that deep ball, the throw that made the entire stadium gasp, there was no hesitation. Just clean mechanics, a quick release, and a spiral that cut through the air like it had a destination from the moment it left his hand. That one play did more than move the chains. It woke up the entire roster. Watch the replay closely and you'll see it. Myles Garrett standing on the sideline, grinning like he just watched a future franchise quarterback announce himself. Receivers chest bumping after routine completions, not because of the yards, but because they finally felt like part of something dangerous. Offensive linemen digging deeper, blocking a half second longer, because they knew the guy behind them could make something real happen. It wasn't perfect. No rookie debut ever is, but the imperfections didn't define him. It was the poise, the command, the way he reset after a missed throw and came right back on the next snap like nothing rattled him. That's the part veterans respond to. That's the part coaches can't teach. That's the part fan bases cling to because it's so rare. Shedeur didn't play like a temporary fix or a placeholder. He played like someone who had been waiting months for the chance to prove everyone wrong. And suddenly, everyone, from the locker room to the broadcast booth, started asking the same question. If this is what he looks like in his first start, what has Cleveland been missing all season? The excitement around Shedeur's debut didn't come without a shadow hanging over it. Because as electric as Sunday felt, there was one thought echoing through every bar, living room, and radio show across Cleveland. Why did it take this long? It wasn't a soft question. It wasn't polite frustration. It was genuine disbelief mixed with anger, because the evidence on the field made the delay impossible to defend. For weeks, fans watched Kevin Stefanski roll out quarterbacks who couldn't spark a single touchdown drive without something ridiculous happening. Week after week, the same script unfolded. The defense battled, the offense sputtered, and the coaching staff told everyone to trust the process. But patience has limits, and Browns fans reached theirs long before this game ever happened. That's why Shedeur's debut felt like someone ripped the curtain back. Suddenly, everyone could see what had been sitting right there on the roster. Untouched, untested, ignored. And that's where the frustration turns into something deeper. Not just, we should have tried him earlier, but how much did this decision cost us? How many winnable games slipped away? How many defensive masterclasses were wasted? How many opportunities died because the coaching staff wanted to stick with experience? Then came the moment Tony Rizzo said what everybody else had been dancing around. He didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't tiptoe. He flat out questioned why Stefanski kept the kid benched while the offense kept sinking. And the brutal part? Nobody could argue with him. Not after Sunday. After seeing how the team responded to Shedeur's presence. That's why Shedeur's debut felt like someone ripped the curtain back. Suddenly, everyone could see what had been sitting right there on the roster, untouched. Not after realizing this wasn't some risky experiment. It was the obvious move the entire time. The deeper issue is this: when a coach hesitates, the locker room feels it. Veterans see it, fans definitely feel it. And when the alternative finally steps onto the field and instantly changes the temperature of the entire franchise, the hesitation doesn't just look cautious, it looks costly. Which leads to an even tougher question that Cleveland can't avoid anymore. If the rookie was this ready all along, what exactly was Stefanski waiting for? As soon as the final whistle blew, the conversation in Cleveland shifted from nice win to something much heavier. Did the Browns just stumble into their future franchise quarterback? It didn't take long for the rumors to start swirling again. Mock drafts, insider whispering, analysts tossing out theories like candy. But after what Shedeur showed, those conversations feel a lot less certain than they did a week ago. Before Sunday, the national narrative was simple. The Browns would draft a quarterback next year. No debate, no hesitation. It was almost treated like a foregone conclusion because the offense looked hopeless. The depth chart looked messy, and the season felt like it was slipping away before Halloween. But then Shedeur stepped in and threw that entire blueprint into the shredder. Now, the talk has changed. Now the question isn't which quarterback Cleveland will draft, but if they should draft one at all. And that's where things get complicated fast. Some reports are already suggesting the front office isn't convinced yet. They want consistency. They want proof. They've seen young quarterbacks flash in the past, only to collapse under the grind of the season. So there's caution, maybe even a little fear, because choosing wrong at quarterback is the kind of mistake that destroys franchises for years. But here's where the speculation ramps up. Fans online are already debating whether Shedeur's performance hints at long-term potential. Some say he has the poise teams spend years searching for. Others argue it's just one game and the league will adjust. And then there are the louder voices, people claiming Cleveland doesn't need to look anywhere else because the kid is the guy. Even analysts are split. Some believe his timing and confidence looked like early signs of something real. Others think the Browns should keep scouting, keep options open, play it safe. And tucked between all of that is one unavoidable truth. If Shedeur keeps playing like this, drafting another quarterback becomes one of the riskiest decisions the Browns could make. Because you don't replace a spark that lights up an entire franchise unless you're absolutely sure it's going to burn out. As electric as Shedeur's debut was, nobody in Cleveland is pretending the story ends there. Because the next chapter isn't against a shaky Raiders team, and it isn't happening in a pressure-free environment. It's happening against one of the toughest, most disciplined defenses in football. A defense that doesn't forgive hesitation, doesn't allow easy reads, and definitely won't give a rookie quarterback the luxury of comfort. This is where things get real. San Francisco plays defense like a fist fight. They disguise coverages, send pressure from angles rookies usually don't see, and force quarterbacks to make decisions a split second faster than they want to. It's the type of matchup that exposes every weakness, every habit, every tiny flaw in mechanics or confidence. And that's exactly why everyone in Cleveland is circling this game. Not out of fear, but curiosity. Because if Shedeur can stand in against that defensive front, if he can stay poised, stay patient, and make the same confident throws he made last week, then this conversation shifts from great debut to something far more meaningful. Franchise changing. But make no mistake, the pressure isn't just on Shedeur. This is a test for Kevin Stefanski too. The play calling can't get conservative the moment things look tough. The offense can't revert to safe little checkdowns just to survive. Fans have seen that movie too many times, and nobody's interested in the rerun. If Stefanski truly believes in the kid, he has to show it. Not with words, but with the plays he chooses when the pocket collapses and the defense starts swinging. This game will reveal more than stats. It will reveal trust. It will reveal how much freedom the coaching staff is willing to give Shedeur when the stakes rise. And more importantly, it will reveal whether Sunday was the spark of something real, or just a glimpse that fades when the lights get brighter. Because if Shedeur walks into that battlefield and looks like he belongs, the entire narrative around the Browns changes instantly. And if he doesn't, well, that's the part Cleveland is holding its breath for. Even before the next kickoff, the entire city feels different. Cleveland isn't quietly hoping for a miracle anymore. They're demanding clarity. Because once fans see what the team could be, there's no going back to the version that sleepwalked through the first half of the season. The standard has changed overnight, and with it, so has the pressure. For the first time in years, there's genuine anticipation around a Browns home game. Not because of giveaways, not because of nostalgia, and not because the opponent brings star power. No, this time it's because everyone wants to see what Shedeur Sanders does next. Ticket requests are skyrocketing. Jerseys are selling like crazy. And even the usual skeptics, the fans who swear they're done with disappointment, are peeking back in just to see if the spark turns into something bigger. But mixed with that excitement is a more serious undercurrent. Fans aren't just watching Shedeur, they're watching Stefanski. They're watching how the locker room responds. They're watching whether the team keeps the momentum or slips back into old habits of hesitation and overly safe play calling. Because deep down, everyone knows this stretch of gains isn't just about wins and losses. It's the moment that defines the franchise's direction. If Shedeur keeps progressing, Cleveland suddenly has a long-term vision, a quarterback to build around, a way to stabilize years of chaos. But if things go sideways, even a little, the uncertainty floods right back in. And that's why fans are locked in right now. This isn't just football. It's identity. It's the feeling of finally crawling out of the endless cycle of maybe next year and stepping into something that feels real. So what do fans expect? Growth, grit, a team willing to lean into the energy Shedeur brought instead of shrinking from it. Cleveland doesn't need perfection. They've survived far too much to demand that. But they need signs this wasn't a one-week fantasy. They need validation that the spark wasn't temporary. Because if Shedeur shows he can weather the pressure, control the pace, and keep this offense alive, then the Browns aren't just interesting again, they're dangerous. Now comes the part nobody in Cleveland can avoid, the moment where excuses, hypotheticals, and what-ifs no longer matter. The Browns have spent years drifting between bursts of hope and stretches of misery, always searching for stability, but never holding on to it long enough to change who they are. But this time feels different. This time, the shift isn't just emotional, it's structural. A rookie quarterback walked into the huddle and rewired how the entire franchise thinks about itself. And that's why the next few weeks matter more than anything. If Shedeur Sanders continues to play with that same poise, that same fearlessness, and that same ability to spark life into an offense that was sleepwalking for half the season, then Cleveland suddenly has a foundation it's been missing for years. Not potential, not optimism, but direction. A blueprint, a path forward that doesn't rely on recycled veterans or temporary flashes of competence. But if the Browns mishandle this moment, if Stefanski tightens up the playbook, if the coaching staff gets conservative, if the team starts acting scared the second adversity hits, then the spark risks fading just as quickly as it arrived. And that's what fans are terrified of. Not losing games, but losing the momentum that finally made them believe again. Because here's the truth. When a quarterback lifts the energy of an entire roster, Shedeur gave Cleveland a glimpse of what this team could be. A team with swagger, a team with balance, a team that doesn't need miracles from the defense just to stay afloat. And now, the pressure shifts entirely onto the coaching staff to prove they won't let history repeat itself. If the Browns commit to this moment, this could be the turning point fans look back on for years. If they don't, then the franchise will have nobody to blame when the cycle resets. The kid proved he belongs. Now it's Cleveland's turn to prove it deserves him.